Good morning. How many of you know the story of Joshua? It's a great story. There's a whole book of the Bible that talks about Joshua, and he's certainly talked about a great deal back in books before that, like Exodus. And he was the protege of Moses. He learned a lot from Moses. And he had the privilege of taking the children of Israel into the promised land, a privilege that Moses did not have. In Joshua chapter 1, verse 9, it says, "Be strong and of a good courage. Do not be afraid, be not dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Now, the only reason that God's going to say, be of good courage, is because there's going to be some scary things. God doesn't give us His Holy Spirit as a comforter unless He knows that we're going to go through some difficult times. God understands that life here on earth is not easy. It wasn't intended to be easy. God has lots of challenges. And so Joshua was a military commander amongst other things. One of the things that they dealt with all kinds of battles out in the wilderness, and they'd fought all kinds of different battles, but they'd never faced a fortified city before. And now there's Jericho. And you may have heard the song, Joshua fought the battle of Jericho. Well, there's a reason why they write songs about it. And yes, we know in retrospect that Joshua was successful. But it had to be a big challenge to him. But he had to remember that God told him, be strong and of a good courage. And don't be afraid and don't be dismayed, for God's with us wherever we go. They were on a mission, literally, from God. But he was facing a challenge unlike he'd ever faced before. Like I said, this had fortified walls. How about you? What's the challenge you're facing? Do you ever notice that sometimes the obstacles just keep getting higher and more difficult? And the older I get, the slower I go, and the higher I cannot go. But you get the point. Jericho was imposing, it was strong, ancient, thick walls, impenetrable. Joshua can see it, and like Joshua, you have to face whatever it is. What is your obstacle today? What's the wall that's in front of you? You can see it, you got to face it, but like Joshua, you don't have to face it alone. Borrowing some thoughts here from Max Lucado from his book Glory Days, and then he quotes Joshua chapter 5, verses 13 and 14. "Now when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand." Now what would you do if you see a guy with this sword? Well, Joshua went up and asked him, "Are you for us or our enemies?" Because are you with us or against us? I need to know, because I might have to draw my sword here. And I love the answer, neither. He replied, "But as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come." So what's he saying? It's not whether I'm with or against you, it's whether you're on my side or not. You're asking the wrong question. Sometimes we're asking God, are you with me or against me? It's like, no. The question is, are we on God's side? And in this case, he was. But what he needed to be reminded of, Joshua needed to be reminded of, so do we. That when we're fighting God's battles, let God fight the battle. The battle belongs to the Lord. There's a lot of ways to say it. But if he's just looking at Jericho thinking, I have to do this, well, that's impossible. The walls that you're looking at today, some of you would say, if I've got to do it, it's impossible. But God's still in the miracle working business when we look to Him. I think of the prophet in the Old Testament, Elisha, and he's just looking and he's just like, we're outnumbered. It's like, no, look again. There's the army of the Lord that's there. And so the message to Joshua is just pretty simple. Jericho has these big walls, but Joshua, you have more. You have me. So get on board with me. And that's our message today. Get on board with God, and nothing's impossible. God bless you. Have a great day.